What's up, Hockey Town? Welcome to another edition of the Forecheck presented by Athletico Physical Therapy. I'm Daniella Bruce, and we're coming to you live from our homes again. Let's bring in the co-host, Ken Cal. Ken, how you doing over there?
Hanging in there. Not much has changed since the last time we did this show, but just raring to go. And I like the fact that we're keeping the fans informed, and it's going to be another good show here today.
I do want to mention one thing before we continue. Just wanted to let you guys know that we are doing our best to record all of this via video chat. So sometimes the video doesn't work with us. So if there is a little bit of lagging, just bear with us. We hope you understand. I'm sure you all do. It's a little bit difficult to run things this way, but we definitely still want to bring you all of the content that we can. So Ken, let's kick this thing off by talking about the NHL officially postponing the Combine, the NHL awards, and the draft. So I can't say this is something that was completely unexpected, but it now is official. And one of the biggest things is that the location, the timing, and the format of the draft is not certain right now. So Ken, what do you think this means for the NHL?
Well, obviously it's in a holding pattern right now. And again, as we mentioned the last time, we're waiting from the CDC to give the green light and we're ready to go. But it kind of makes sense to me, the fact that if the season is going to start, let's say in the summer months, if it's going to be the playoffs then and you crown your champion, obviously you can't have your draft or your awards in June. So you have to push it back a little bit. So I just think it's a great step for the National Hockey League right now, just planning ahead. And we'll just have to wait and see when we get the all clear. And once that happens, we should have some hockey again.
Definitely, and we're all looking forward to seeing some hockey again. But in the meantime, as I mentioned, we're doing our best to bring you some quality content. And something that we're doing to get this thing started is Hockey Town Trivia. This is a really cool thing that you can do via the District Detroit mobile app. So you just have to log on every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. And what happens is you get 15 multiple choice questions. And the faster you answer the question, as long as it's right, the more points you get. And at the end, we will crown a winner and they will receive a Red Wings swag bag with some really cool gear in it. And I know that I'm telling you this while I'm talking to Ken Cal, but trust me, he's not allowed to join the trivia because he would probably kick all of our butts.
Oh, come on. Trivia, it's not my strong point. I'm telling you right now. Just ask Paul Woods.
Again, guys, that's Hockey Town Trivia on the District Detroit mobile app, and that can be found on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. And guys, now we are going to welcome a very special guest that works very closely with the Red Wings prospects, Director of Player Development, Shawn Horcoff for your Detroit Red Wings. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
How are you doing over there? Staying safe and the family's all doing well?
Yeah, I'm in my basement here because I got 3 kids at home. 2 of them are homeschooling, so to try to limit the noise.
So let's get right into this one, Shawn. We're going to talk to you a little bit about kind of what's going on in the NHL right now. And I want to start with asking you, as the Director of Player Development, in a normal season, what is your day-to-day like at this time of the year?
Well, where are we now? We're into April. I mean, this is really the time of the year that we're starting to close up seasons. Some guys are gearing up for a long playoff run. Other kids are their seasons are over. They're starting to get home. I think this is a time where we do a few things. First off, we'll really assess the season overall, each player individually, and then we'll start putting together a game plan for the off season, what we want them to work on, and then really just start getting into more individual work. Where are they going to live? Who their trainers? What do they have available to them? Their skating coaches, their skills coaches. So really, this is where the summer planning sort of kicks off first.
And among many of your other roles as the Director of Player Development, you are in charge of running development camp. What is the schedule for development camp going to look like? Or do you guys have any idea now that the draft has officially been postponed?
Yeah, and all the development camps have as well. So really, we're just in a holding pattern right now. Obviously, we know that our development camp was supposed to be right after the draft, which would have finished up right before 4th of July. Obviously, that's been delayed and postponed. We're hoping that it gets picked up again later, but we're just like everyone else. We're in a holding pattern waiting for the league. But as a staff, we're going to prepare like it is going to happen again somewhere, hopefully mid to late July. But so if it does, we'll be ready. But if not, we'll figure something out and come up with a creative way to try to get our guys in if we can.
Shawn, a lot of eyes were on the young talent in Grand Rapids this year, and they were very much in a playoff mix before the pause. A lot of them playing in the American Hockey League. What can you tell us about their development into the American Hockey League? Because you and I know it's a great league.
It is a great league. It's a difficult league. It's not an easy league to produce offense in. I think we've had a lot of guys play extremely well down there. Obviously, first being, I think Mo Sider comes to mind. Obviously, both him and Joe Valeno, when they went to the World Juniors, I thought they both came back as different players. Mo came back, was playing 23, 24 minutes a night in all situations. Joe came back, obviously had a lot more confidence from that tournament. Was skating better, felt better offensively. We're really happy with his overall game. Tons of other guys down there. Obviously, Zadina finished the year up in the NHL. Lindstrom finished up in Detroit. Giovanni Smith, Michael Rasmussen, Chase Pearson. There's a lot of guys. It's a good time for us down there, development staff-wise, because we have a lot of really good prospects.
Shawn, there was a lot of movement between Detroit and Grand Rapids this season, and you specifically mentioned two players that played the season in Grand Rapids, and Mo Sider and Joe Valeno, and how they played in World Juniors. And the World Juniors, Team Canada actually won the championship. Joe Valeno was on that team, along with Jared McIsaac. And how does that tournament really develop your players?
Well, for that age group, it's the best tournament in the world. All the best players, all the team's top prospects play there. And usually what you see, I think last year, especially for both Jared and Joe, for us, they win the World Juniors, be it in limited roles, and didn't have very much success. Obviously for Canada, they're a team that feels like they should win every year, and they did poorly. So I think both of those guys viewed this year as an opportunity to come back and have a bigger role. They both knew they were going to play in big situations and big minutes. And they wanted to win, and obviously they were able to do that. I think one thing what Jared McIsaac got touched on is, obviously he got hurt. He had surgery this season or the off season previous. First thing he asked us was, "What can I do to make this World Junior team? I want to make the World Junior team." So we said, "Well, that's going to be a lot of work. You're going to have to kind of commit to staying in Detroit the whole entire time," which he did. He stayed right up until Christmas. Right up till early December when he was released back to his junior team. Put in just an immense amount of work, and obviously to his credit, he was able to go back. He only played 3 games in junior hockey before the World Junior trial, but he was able to make that team. Went over, played a good role, and just a great learning experience for him there. So, and then with Joe, obviously Joe went there. He's a guy that played in all situations: power play, penalty kill. We relied upon him at the end of the game in important minutes. Was a leader for that team. Obviously wearing a leader. So, both those guys, when they came back, Joe coming to Grand Rapids and Jared going back to Halifax and then traded to Moncton, just had a huge amount of confidence, and their seasons took off from there.
Shawn, a lot of times people call in our Inside Hockey Town show and they ask about goaltending, and are there any goaltenders that we have in the system down the road that could eventually make it in the National Hockey League? And I know we've drafted a few over the last couple of years, but what are your thoughts about the goaltending situation with these youngsters trying to make the NHL?
Yeah, well, that's one thing is the goaltenders that we do have are young. I think one thing with goaltending is it takes more time than any other position. It's a difficult position to not only to get experience in, because there's only so many spots and there's only one goalie that can play every single night. So for us, obviously, Larson turned pro this year. Had a little up and down season to start, but I think he went through what a lot of young players go through. Faced a little bit of adversity, a real good summer this year, and to continue his growth curve. Petrozelli had a good year in college. Gielander won the goaltender of the year in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. He's going to Colgate next year. We have a few, Eliasson and Bratsam over in Sweden. Eliasson played on the World Junior team for Sweden. So we do have some good goaltenders coming, but they're young. It's just going to take some time.
Shawn, let's talk a little bit more about defensemen. You've already mentioned Mo Sider, who was the Red Wings' first-round draft pick last year, 2019 draft. In the second round, you as in the Red Wings, also selected 2 defensemen in Antti Tuomisto and Albert Johansen. Both played in Europe this season. What can you tell us about the development of those 2?
Both had great years. Then with Antti, he ended up winning the defenseman and the overall player of the year in the J20 league. He only played in junior hockey over there because he's going to the University of Denver next year. So in order to keep his eligibility, he wasn't allowed to play up in the top league, or else he would have. So he really accomplished pretty much everything you can for a defenseman over there. So we're really happy with his growth and his maturity. He's going to a great program next year in the University of Denver. We're going to have good coaching and just good exposure to a top program. So I think there's lots to like about Ante. With Albert had a fantastic year. I think he was a guy that we weren't sure where he was going to play going into the season, but they made Farstad, which is the men's team in the SHL. Farstad right out of camp. Spent a little bit of time playing junior hockey, but for the majority of the year he was playing up with the men's team. And really it's too bad the season ended because he's finished with I think 5 points in his last 5 games. Was starting to play more power plays. His minutes were going up and his confidence was really rising. So it's too bad that the season was cut short, but really made a good step in the right direction. And for him, for both of those guys in general, maybe this, the time off right now is not a total negative thing because they're both players that really need to put in a lot of strength. They need a lot of time in the gym, and right now that's all we have is time, right? So hopefully we'll put them to good work, get them in the right situation, get them around the right people. Obviously in a safe situation right now in a safe environment, but we need them to be in the gym putting on strength because that's really the main thing that they're missing right now.
Shawn, what can you tell us about Elmer Soderblom? I believe he's a big, tall hockey player and plays up front, forward position. What can you tell about his development? And it seemed like he put up some pretty good numbers where he was playing.
Yeah, he did. Both him and actually we have another player. They played in Frölunda, the Frölunda program over there. Majority of the year they played in junior hockey. Gustav Berglund played with him as well, defenseman we drafted last year as well. And they both had great years. I think with Elmer, he's really kind of a late bloomer. He's just a kid that's starting to figure out how good he can be. He's massive, 6'6", 6'7". I think he's breaking, I know he's breaking strength training records over there for Frölunda. He was the strongest kid in camp overall. We had him in development camp last year. So he's just really starting to figure out who he can be, starting to get some confidence. He had a really good year, obviously scoring a lot of goals there for Frölunda.
And Shawn, we're going to give you one final question here and wrap this thing up. It's nearly a full season now that that you've been working under Steve Yzerman. Has anything changed in the approach to player development under him?
I don't know. I think, maybe with Steve, first off, he believes in it wholeheartedly. He knows the situation that we're in. He's really given us every opportunity as a development staff and every resource possible in order to go and do our job. So that's really for as a team with Nick Cromwell, Brandon Naratto, Denkler, and myself. It's really all we can ask for is we've been given everything that we feel we need in order to develop these guys and make them reach their true potential. So he's been nothing but great to us so far, and we're just starting this process. But it's funny how quick a year goes, and like I said, we're looking forward to hopefully getting this coronavirus through here, getting in a safe environment where we can really start training our players again. So hopefully that comes quick sooner rather than later.
Definitely hoping that we can get back to a normal routine here as soon as possible. The Forecheck is going to take a quick break, everybody, but when we come back, I'm going to be joined by Carley Johnston and Art Regner. Right now, we say goodbye to both Ken and Shawn. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. Very much appreciated.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, fellas. Now, this really is the one tonight. You got to go out there and take it.
And Lindsay drives in to score. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal!
Yzerman raises the chalice above his head. Brady on goal. He scores! Tuesday, scores! There he is!
Welcome back to the Forecheck, everybody. And as promised before we went to break, I am now going to be joined by Art Regner from DetroitRedWings.com and Carley Johnston, your Red Wings team reporter. Guys, how's it going over there?
Good.
Going
How
great.
are you?
Yeah, it's good to see you both. Art, I haven't seen you since we've been on Shutdown. Your hair looks great, I promise.
Yeah, again, what an issue, even at home. Anyway,
I love it.
Great to see both of you too. Yeah. Thank you.
I know you guys.
As you guys know, I just talked to Shawn Horcoff before you guys joined us. Me and Ken Kale did, and he talked a lot about development camp and Red Wings prospects. So I have a few questions for you guys specifically. Carley, I know you get to spend a lot of time talking to the players at development camp. And what's it like for those guys to be in the situation that is development camp?
I know they come in very nervous, but very excited. I mean, this is an interview. The whole thing is a tryout, but they get to come in and meet the staff and get to walk around and skate in the state-of-the-art facility. That is Little Caesars Arena. So they really enjoy it, and they get to go on little fun excursions with Lisa McDowell, the team nutritionist, and she's teaching them about how to stay energized, what to eat. So they learn about that and just what it's like to live as an NHL player. You get to see their skill sets, but as well as that, you get to learn their personalities. And so I get to talk to them a lot and get to see who they really are. But I mean, all in all, it's a tryout. So it's really nerve-wracking for these guys.
And Carley, I know you mentioned it briefly as seeing their personalities. A lot of these young kids that come into development camp have great personalities, don't they?
Oh, yeah. The most recent one that I really thought he was just a class clown is Mo Sider. Like, even during development camp, I was like, this kid has a big personality, about as big as he is.
That's funny. And Art, you've talked a lot to these prospects, and especially the ones that are in Grand Rapids. Who this year has really stood out to you?
Well, first, without trying to sound too redundant here, I mean, obviously, Mo Sider, I think what's remarkable is that the age that he is able to maintain a level of excellence at the AHL level at 18/19 years old is incredible. And I know the Red Wings were a little bit apprehensive because the AHL, as Shawn Horcoff alluded to, is the second best league in the world. And these are definitely men. A lot of them have played the NHL. A lot of them are trying to get back to the NHL. So the Red Wings were kind of worried if Sider would be a marked man, so to speak, that would they take runs at him? Was it best for him to go into a league that at times can be somewhat brutal physically? And he is obviously held his own there and has dished it out too. So he's really been a remarkable prospect. Michael Rasmussen is perfecting his craft down there as far as becoming a center, which he is going to be. And, I think that, you'll see him next year back in Detroit. Joe Veleno has had some ups and downs, but has shown, again, he's only 19. And because he had exceptional status, he's a year behind everybody. And as Shawn Horcoff said, look, Veleno and Sider, to that matter, when they came back from the World Juniors tournament, where Joe, he had 6 points in 6 games and won the gold medal, that they've really come on. So, obviously Zadina was impressive down there, but I don't even consider him a Griffin anymore. I mean, he's a Red Wing, and I think Dennis Chalowski is beginning to learn that two-way game, and he really needed to learn it in Grand Rapids because, as we could see watching the Red Wings this year, their goal differential was astoundingly bad, and they needed Dennis, even though he's great on the power play, they needed him to go down there and perfect his craft defensively a little bit.
Well, you mentioned guys like Filip Zadina, Dennis Chalowski, and there were a lot of other call-ups throughout this season for the Red Wings. Carley, you spend a lot of time in the locker room with these guys, talking to them. When they do get that call-up, some of them even making their NHL debuts, what's it like to talk to them?
My favorite part is the first question of any scrum when they get called up is, what was going through your head, or how were you feeling when you got that call from Steve Yzerman? Because these people, these kids are smiling ear to ear. They're getting that opportunity to put on the winged wheel sweater and go out and play in an NHL game. And although it's exciting, it's also, again, like I said earlier, as development camp, it's nerve-wracking. These guys are playing with the best of the best in the best league in the world. So it's an awesome opportunity for them to get to really showcase their skills and prove that they can play in the National Hockey League.
And Art, I know you said this, that you believe that we'll see Mo Sider next year in Detroit. So I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit here. Who else do you see in Grand Rapids that maybe did get the call up, maybe hasn't been in a Red Wings uniform yet? Who do you think that we'll see in Detroit next year?
Well, obviously, like I said, Zadina's obviously on the team. He's not going to go anywhere. So I'm giving myself an easy way out with that one. I think Michael Rasmussen's on the team next year. I think Mo Sider, chances are he's going to be on the team next year. If not, he's going to be a very early call up. And then I also think that whomever they draft in the top 4, whomever that player is, that guy is going to be on the team. Also, I think a guy like Valeno, who will probably need another year in Grand Rapids, will be a call-up next year. And I also think a guy to watch out for is Chase Pearson, who, we affectionately called Peach because he's from Georgia. I think that he's had a pretty good season too. The Georgia Peach Tie Cobb. Look it up, Carley. Come on now. And so anyway, but I think those guys, and then obviously you have some real stalwarts down there, like Joe Hicketts or somebody, a veteran, Brian Lashoff, depending on what the injury situation is. And it has not been good for the Red Wings the last couple of seasons. We could see a lot of Griffins coming up here, but when you ask me some of the prospects that people have heard about lately and are eager to see, I think the guys that I just mentioned are the likely candidates.
Definitely. And we're all hoping for the Red Wings to have some draft luck this year. They haven't been so lucky in the lottery. So I'm thinking this is their year.
No.
Guys, let's move on to some fun questions here. We took some Twitter questions from fans with the hashtag #AskTheForecheck. So I have a couple of questions for the both of you. And the first one, Carley, what has been your favorite way to pass the time during the shutdown?
Man, okay. So I feel like when we're in the thick of the season, we kind of fall short on our chores. So I've definitely been doing a lot of cleaning, a lot of organizing. But we are still working a lot. So we kind of still have that full Monday through Friday, 9 to 5:30 schedule. But I definitely have been watching some movies and catching up on some shows that I haven't been able to do since the season started. Daniella, what about you?
Definitely along those same lines, Carley. Like you said, when we get in season, it's a really, really busy time. So it's a little bit laid back at home right now, but hey, we're still working to try to bring you guys all of the best content. Don't you worry there. But yeah, I've been catching up on a lot of Netflix shows. There's some good ones out there right now.
I don't mean to interrupt you too, but I want to introduce a majority of our audience to something that is very old, but will be very new to them. This is a book. It's a physical object that you actually read. That's what I've been doing.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation, actually, I'll tell you what I've been really reading a lot of is scouting reports for the upcoming draft. I really enjoy that stuff. So besides reading books.
Art, this one's for you, okay? Who is the most fun Red Wing to interview? What about past Red Wings?
Out of the current team, all of them are great, as you both know. I would say that the guy that I really do like to talk to a lot, there's actually two, but this is obviously Big Tony, Anthony Mantha. He's the most honest player I've met in a long time. You can go up to him after a game, and I know both of you have, and say, Anthony, did you play tonight? Were you in the lineup? It says, you were out there for 20 minutes, but God, what'd you do? And he'll say to you, I know, I have no idea. You're absolutely right. I did nothing. That's pretty for a guy that's really high end like that, but he realizes how good he can be. So I love talking to Anthony Mantha. I really do. I call him Big T. I call him Big Tony. He's I think he's, he is going to be an elite goal scorer in this league. I'm sure he's going to stay healthy. He's going to calm down a little bit on the ice. And then the other one that I really do enjoy talking to is Justin Abdicator. He's a real stand-up guy, but we're both kind of addicted to Big Ten sports. And that always then leads into a conversation about Michigan and Michigan State, where as you do know, I kind of rag him about State. He rags me about Michigan. So I like that. I do like talking to Justin. He's a real stand-up guy. I know it hasn't gone quite as like he had hoped the last couple of years, but he's always available, always is accountable, and and likes the Big Ten. So I would say as far as past Red Wings, my God, I can go on forever. All four grindliners, Freddie LaPointe, I love. Kevin Hodson, of course, Ozzy, Larry Murphy. Steve has a biting sense of humor, which is always enjoyed talking to him. Shanny was great. Nick Holmstrom, who really couldn't speak a lot of great English, but he would always say that he was in Scotty's dog yard instead of doghouse. So he always could turn a phrase interesting. So but so many. Tim Taylor was another a guy that I really enjoyed. Mike Vernon was a lot of fun. And Dominic Hasek was, that man is in his own zone.
It's really cool that you guys have the opportunity, and me in some circumstances, to build relationships with these guys and really get to know their personalities. It's a really cool aspect of working in sports. But Carley, we've got a fun question for you now, and I'm sure your list goes on when you're answering this one. But what's the funniest thing that has happened to you at a game or event this season?
Yes, thing. Okay. I mean, there are so many, but one personal one that I can think of is when I tripped up the stairs after a hit that I had down in the stands. I turned around after I was done. I started running up the stairs, and I totally just funny for everyone else, a little embarrassing for me, but that's one moment I can think of. I feel like Art probably has one too.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments season was being on Game Day Live with Art and Darren McCarty, because those two together, they're like the dynamic duo.
Well,
or Art and Amore.
My history with Darren is long and extensive. Certainly, and God rest his soul, his dad, Craig McCarty, was a good buddy of mine, and I always enjoyed talking to and having dinner with Darren's parents, and always making sure that Darren was minding his P's and Q's, which virtually never happened. But those were fun. I think I will tell you an embarrassing moment that I had this year is when Alex Biega came up and talked to us after a game. I'm right there. I was the first question, and I called him Kevin, and that was because of I'm thinking Vancouver, because that's where he was from, and I'm thinking Kevin Bieksa, who was a defenseman for Vancouver who played for a long time. Alex was cool about it, he just went with it and rolled with it. I later apologized to him, and he just laughed and told me that he has been called Kevin more times than he's been called Alex. So when I did that, I felt really bad. I was kind of embarrassed about it, but he was a good sport about it.
That's okay, Art. We all make mistakes. Right? That's a good one, though. It could have been. You
two are very forgiving. You're my two favorites out of everybody that I work with. You're my two.
Well, for
today. Right back at you.
We're going to wrap this thing up. I want to thank you both so much for joining us today. It's always great to have you both on the Forecheck. It's been a lot of fun, and stay safe and stay healthy out there. All right, everybody. And just like we did there, we took some fan questions from Twitter with the hashtag #AskTheForecheck. So in the next Forecheck episode, your question can be featured. If you want to ask it, just head to Twitter, make sure you tweet the Red Wings, and use the hashtag #AskTheForecheck. As always, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you guys next time.